Captain Deho rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the large map, glowing in the center of the bridge. The starship distant horizon hummed quietly around him. His crew worked at their stations, but they kept looking over at him with worry in their eyes. "Captain, we should turn back," said First Officer Juri. Her voice was firm but quiet. She stood next to him, arms crossed over her chest. "We are too close to the edge." Deho didn't answer right away. The map showed everything they knew about space. Thousands of stars, hundreds of alien worlds, trade routes that connected all the known races of the galaxy. The Vrexians with their crystal cities, the gentle morphs who could change their shape, the strange quantum collective who lived half in this world and half in another. But then the map just stopped. A straight line cut across the stars. Beyond that line was empty space marked with simple words: human territory. "It makes no sense," Deho said at last. "Why would the Council allow this? Every race shares their star charts. Every race except humans." Science Officer Wu Jin looked up from his screen. His long fingers tapped nervously on the edge of his station. "Captain, there are stories," Wu Jin said. "What kind of stories?" Deho turned to face him. Wu Jin looked around as if afraid someone might hear. The bridge was quiet now. Everyone was listening. "Stories about ships that went too close to human space," he said. "Ships that never came back, or worse, ships that came back with crews who were changed." Deho laughed, but it sounded hollow even to him. "That's just scary talk. Humans are just people. They stand on two legs. They come from one planet. Yes, they have good technology, but they're not gods." Navigator Hyajin spoke up from her seat. She was young, but her eyes looked old today. "Then why does the Council leave them alone?" she asked. "The Council has 10,000 ships. The Council rules most of the galaxy. Why do they draw a line and say, 'Do not cross'?" Deho had no good answer. The humans had joined the Galactic Council 300 years ago. They shared some technology, amazing things that helped with medicine and travel, but they kept most secrets to themselves. And they had one rule: no one enters human space. "Maybe they're hiding something," Communications Officer Minsu suggested. He was always suspicious. "Something they don't want us to see. Or maybe they're protecting us from something," said Wu Jin quietly. Deho zoomed in on the map. Right at the edge of human space was a small star system. Just one yellow star with 4 planets. It wasn't even marked as important. "Set course for these coordinates," Deho ordered suddenly. The bridge went completely silent. "Captain," Juri said carefully, "that's right on the boundary. But not over it," Deho pointed out. "We have every right to be there. The treaty only forbids crossing into human territory. It doesn't say we can't look from the outside." "This is unwise," Juri said, but she nodded to Hyejin anyway. "Course set, Captain," Hyejin said. Her voice shook slightly. "We'll arrive in 6 hours." "Good. I'll be in my quarters. Call me if anything changes." Deho left the bridge, feeling their worried eyes on his back. In his small room, Deho looked at an old picture. It showed his grandfather standing next to a human woman. Both were smiling. The picture was taken 50 years ago, when there was more contact between humans and other races. His grandfather had been a trader who sometimes did business with humans. He always said they were kind but sad, like they carried a heavy weight. Before he died, he told Deho, "They're hiding something big, something that changed them. Find out what it is." That was why Deho had joined the exploration fleet. That was why he kept pushing to the edges of known space. He wanted answers. A soft beep interrupted his thoughts. "Captain," Juri's voice came through the speaker. "We're approaching the boundary system. I'll be right there." When Deho returned to the bridge, everyone was at their stations. The main screen showed a yellow star growing larger as they approached. "Standard orbit around the 4th planet," Deho ordered. "Full sensor sweep of the system." "Yes, Captain," Hyejin said. Her hands moved quickly over her controls. As the distant horizon slowed to enter orbit, the sensors suddenly went crazy. Lights flashed across all the screens. "What's happening?" Deho demanded. "Something's coming," Wu Jin shouted. Massive energy readings at the boundary line. The main screen changed to show empty space. Then, like water rippling, space itself seemed to bend. A hole opened in the blackness. A ship emerged. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was sleek and black, with no visible engines or weapons. It seemed to drink in the light around it rather than reflect it. It moved with impossible grace, covering the distance between them in seconds. "It's a human ship," Minsu whispered. "It must be. They've never shown their military vessels before," said Juri. "No one knows what they look like." "Are they charging weapons?" Daeho asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Wu Jin checked his readings. I don't know. I can't tell what those energy patterns are. Our sensors don't recognize them." "Open a channel," Daeho ordered. "All frequencies." Minsu worked at his station. "Channel open, Captain." Daeho took a deep breath. "This is Captain Daeho of the consortium vessel Distant Horizon. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We have not crossed the boundary into human territory." For a long moment there was no response. Then the main screen flickered and changed. A human woman appeared on the screen. She looked ordinary enough. Dark hair pulled back, calm eyes, simple black uniform. But something about her made Daeho's skin crawl. It was her eyes, he realized. They were too still, too knowing. "Greetings, Captain Daeho," she said. Her voice was pleasant and even. "I am Representative Ji-un from Human Space. Our systems detected your vessel's approach to our boundary." Daeho straightened his uniform. "We have violated no treaties. We have every right to be here." "Of course," Ji-un said with a small smile. "However, your presence so close to our space suggests curiosity. The Council has authorized me to address that curiosity directly. We believe this may prevent unfortunate incidents." Daeho exchanged a quick glance with Juri. This was unexpected. "What are you suggesting?" he asked carefully. "I am inviting you to cross the boundary, Captain. 1. Ship, limited crew. You will see only what we choose to show you." Jian's smile remained, but her eyes hardened slightly. "Consider it a diplomatic gesture. The alternative is to leave immediately and never return to this sector." The bridge erupted in whispers. No non-human ship had been allowed into human space in over 200 years. "May I have a moment to discuss this with my officers?" Daeho asked. "Of course. I'll wait for your decision." The screen went dark. Daeho turned to his crew. "Opinions? It's a trap," Minsu said immediately. "Or an unprecedented opportunity," countered Wu Jin. Juri shook her head. "Captain, remember the stories. No one goes into human space and comes back the same." Daeho looked at the blank screen, thinking of his grandfather's words. "Find out what it is." "Open the channel again," he said. Jiun's face reappeared. "We accept your invitation," Daeho said firmly. Jiun nodded. "Excellent. Follow our vessel precisely. Any deviation from our course will result in immediate termination of this arrangement." As her image disappeared, Juri stepped closer to Daeho. "Captain," she whispered, "are you certain this is wise?" Daeho watched as the black human ship turned gracefully and began moving toward the boundary. "No," he admitted quietly. But when was discovery ever about wisdom? The black human ship moved slowly, as if giving the distant horizon time to follow. Captain Daeho watched it on the main screen. The ship had no markings, no visible engines, nothing to show how it worked. "Match their course and speed," Daeho ordered. "Yes, Captain," said Navigator Haijin. Her hands shook slightly as she worked the controls. First Officer Juri moved closer to Daeho. "Captain, we should talk about who will go with you." "Go with me? You don't plan to go alone, do you?" Juri looked worried. "The human said limited crew. That means more than just you." Daeho nodded. "You're right. I'll need you, of course. And Wu Jin for science. Minsu for communications. And Hiejin should stay to manage the ship," Juri agreed. "No," Hiejin said from her station. Everyone turned to look at her. I want to go too. I've studied human history. I might see things others would miss. Tejo thought for a moment. Very well. Engineering Chief Tejo can watch the ship while we're gone. The ship's alarm suddenly sounded. Red lights flashed across the bridge. We're crossing the boundary, Wu Jin called out. His eyes were fixed on his screen. Sensors are going crazy. The stars outside seemed to shift and blur. The ship shuddered. For a moment, it felt like they were falling in all directions at once. Then everything was calm again. The stars looked normal. The ship's systems returned to normal. What was that? Tejo asked. Wu Jin shook his head. I don't know. It was like we passed through a curtain, but the readings don't make sense. According to this, we're still where we were before, but also somewhere else. The human ship is slowing, Hyojin reported. They're stopping. On the screen, the black ship came to a halt. A small door opened in its side. A soft blue light shone from inside. They're hailing us, Minsu said. Representative Ji-eun appeared on the screen again. Captain Tejo, please prepare your team to come aboard our vessel. Bring no weapons, you will not need them. Understood, Tejo replied. We'll take our shuttle over. Ji-eun shook her head. That won't be necessary. She pressed something, off-screen. Suddenly, the bridge of the distant horizon was filled with a soft blue light. Tejo felt a strange tingling sensation all over his body. He tried to move but couldn't. The light grew brighter and then they were somewhere else. Tejo, Juri, Wujin, Minsu, and Hyejin stood in a plain white room. There were no doors or windows that they could see. What just happened? Minsu asked, his voice high with fear. I think they moved us somehow, Juri said. She patted her body as if making sure all parts were still there. Fascinating. Wujin pulled out a small device and began taking readings. Some kind of matter transfer technology. The consortium has been trying to develop this for centuries. A part of the wall slid open and Ji-eun walked in. In person, she looked both ordinary and strange. She wore a simple black uniform with no rank or markings. Her face was calm and friendly, but her movements were too perfect, too smooth. And her eyes, they seemed deeper somehow, as if looking into them might mean falling forever. Welcome aboard the Quiet Observer, she said. I apologize for the abrupt transfer. We find it more efficient than shuttle docking. Tejo stepped forward. Thank you for your invitation. We're honored to be the first non-humans allowed into your space in centuries. Ji-eun smiled. It was a good smile, warm and real, but something about it made Tejo's skin crawl. You are not the first, she said. But most who enter do not leave again. A cold silence fell over the room. Are you threatening us? Juri asked, moving closer to Tejo. Ji-eun looked surprised. Not at all. I simply state a fact. Most who see what humans have become choose to stay. Choose? Hyejin asked. Of course, we force no one. Ji-eun gestured, and another wall opened. Please follow me. We have much to show you and little time. They followed her into a hallway that seemed to stretch forever in both directions. As they walked, Tejo noticed something odd. The walls sometimes appeared solid, sometimes transparent. Through the transparent sections he could see stars, but not the stars he knew. These moved too quickly, changed colors, sometimes split into two. What are we seeing? He asked. Reality, Ji-eun said simply. Or rather, realities. They entered a large room with a round table in the center. On the table was a device that looked like a small star, glowing with soft white light. Please sit, Ji-eun said, taking a seat herself. Ask your questions. That's why you're here, isn't it? Curiosity? The 5 crew members sat down carefully. Tejo studied Ji-eun's face. What are humans? He asked directly. What have you become? Ji-eun touched the glowing device. Above it, an image appeared. A blue-green planet that must be Earth, the human homeworld. 200 years ago, she said, humans were much like your people. We explored space. We made friends and enemies. We fought. Wars and made peace. We were ordinary. The image changed, showing humans building cities, flying ships, living normal lives. Then we found something. Ji-eun's voice became softer. Some call it the door. Some call it the key. It doesn't matter what name we use. What matters is what it showed us. The image changed again. Now it showed a human man standing in front of what looked like a window. But the window didn't show a normal view. It showed everything, all at once. Past and future, here and there. Everything possible. We learned that reality is not fixed, Ji-eun continued. It is a choice. Many choices every moment. We learned to make different choices than the ones nature intended. Min-soo leaned forward. You're saying humans can change reality? We're saying reality was never real to begin with, Ji-eun replied. Or rather, it was only one option among many. Woo-jin's eyes were wide. That's impossible. The laws of physics are suggestions at best, Ji-eun cut in. She smiled again. This is why we keep to ourselves, Science Officer Woo-jin. This knowledge changes those who learn it, changes them forever. Is that why ships don't return from human space? Dae-ho asked. Because the crews choose to stay? Ji-eun nodded. Some do. Others we turn away before they learn too much. A few. She paused. A few we must change for their own safety and the safety of others. Change how? Juri demanded. Instead of answering, Ji-eun stood up. Come. Words are not enough. You need to see. They followed her to another room. This one had a large window looking out into space. But the space they saw was wrong. Stars moved in patterns. Galaxies formed shapes that seemed alive. This is human space now, Ji-eun said quietly. What you're seeing is just a small part of it, translated into something your eyes can understand. Dae-ho felt dizzy looking at it. And the humans? What do they do here? We explore, Ji-eun said. Not space as you understand it, but possibility itself. We have become travelers in realities, not just stars. And why show us this? Hye-jin asked. Why now? Ji-eun turned to face them. For a moment her form seemed to shift as if she were made of light rather than flesh. Because something is coming, she said. Something from beyond all realities, we have seen it. And when it arrives, the galaxy will need to be ready. What is coming? Dae-ho asked, feeling a cold fear grip his heart. Ji-eun looked at each of them in turn. Tomorrow I will show you. For now, rest. Your minds need time to adjust to what you've seen today. She led them to small rooms where they could sleep. As Dae-ho lay on his bed, he couldn't close his eyes. He kept seeing those impossible stars, moving like they were alive. Something was coming, Ji-eun had said. And humans, these strange new humans who could bend reality, were afraid of it. What could scare gods? Dae-ho could not sleep. The room Ji-eun had given him was comfortable enough. The bed was soft, the air was clean. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw those strange stars moving like they were alive. After hours of trying, he gave up and got out of bed. The door to his room opened without a sound. The hallway outside was dim but not dark. Dae-ho looked both ways, wondering if he was allowed to explore on his own. You won't get lost, said a voice behind him. Dae-ho turned quickly. Ji-eun stood there, though he was sure the hallway had been empty a moment ago. I couldn't sleep, Dae-ho explained. Ji-eun nodded. Few do, their first night in human space. Your mind knows things are different here even if you don't understand how. Where are the others? Dae-ho asked. Your first officer and communications officer are sleeping. Your science officer is trying to make sense of his readings. And your navigator is looking at the stars. Ji-eun smiled. Would you like to join her? The view from the observation deck is quite educational. Dae-ho nodded and Ji-eun led him through the ship. The hallways seemed to change as they walked. Sometimes they were straight, sometimes curved. Once, Daeho was sure they walked through. A wall, though it felt like air. The observation deck was a large room with a glass floor, walls, and ceiling. It felt like floating in space. Hyejin stood in the center, looking down at the stars beneath her feet. "It's wrong," she said without turning. "All of it is wrong." "What do you mean?" Daeho asked, stepping closer to her. Hyejin pointed at the stars. "I've studied star charts all my life. I know where every major star should be, but here, nothing is where it should be, and the stars move." Daeho looked down. She was right. The stars below seemed to be flowing like a river, forming patterns that almost made sense before breaking apart again. "What you're seeing is not what is actually there," Ji-un explained. "Your minds cannot comprehend the true nature of space in our territory, so your brains translate it into something you can understand. Moving stars, changing patterns." "What is actually there?" Daeho asked. "Possibility," Ji-un said simply. "In your space, things are fixed. A star is a star. A planet is a planet. Here they can be many things at once, or nothing at all. It depends on the observer." Hyejin turned to face them. Her eyes were wide with fear and wonder. "Is this what humans see all the time?" "No," Ji-un said. "We see much more." A soft chime sounded through the ship. Ji-un tilted her head as if listening to a voice they couldn't hear. "It's time," she said. "The others are waking. We should join them for the next part of your education." When they returned to the meeting room, Ju-ri, Min-soo, and Woo-jin were already there. Woo-jin looked excited. The other two looked worried. "Captain," Ju-ri said as soon as she saw Daeho, "we need to talk, in private." "There is no privacy here," Ji-un said. "Not as you understand it. Please, speak freely." Ju-ri frowned but continued. "Captain, I've been thinking about what we learned yesterday. If humans can change reality, are we safe here? Are we still ourselves?" "An excellent question," Ji-un said before Daeho could answer. "And the answer is both yes and no. You are as you were when you arrived. But being here is changing you in small ways. You cannot witness what you're witnessing without being changed." "That's not comforting," Min-soo muttered. "It wasn't meant to be," Ji-un replied. "Comfort is not why you're here." The table in the center of the room began to glow. A map appeared above it, but unlike any map they had ever seen. This one moved, and shifted constantly. Parts of it faded in and out. Other parts split into multiple versions of themselves. "This is the true map of human space," Ji-un said, "or as close as your minds can come to understanding it." "It's beautiful," Woo-jin whispered. "It's terrible," Hyejin said at the same time. Ji-un nodded to both of them. "Yes, both are true." She touched the map, and it zoomed in on a specific area. Here the movement was more violent. Things didn't just shift, they tore apart and reformed. "This is the edge of what we call the deep," Ji-un explained. "It's where reality becomes thin, where the barriers between what is and what could start to break down." "And what's on the other side?" Daeho asked. Ji-un's face became very serious. "Something old. Something that was here before stars, before planets, before life. Something that wants to unmake everything." The 5 crew members looked at each other in shock. "You're saying there's some kind of monster beyond reality?" Min-soo asked, his voice shaking. "Not a monster," Ji-un corrected. "Monsters can be fought, can be understood. This is more like a law of nature, a rule that says everything must end." "And humans are fighting this thing?" Ju-ri asked. "We are trying," Ji-un said. "That's why we changed ourselves. That's why we explored the deep. We needed to understand the enemy." The map changed again, showing what looked like a barrier, a wall of light separating the chaotic area from the rest of space. "This is our work," Ji-un said with a hint of pride. "A wall between reality and the deep. We've maintained it for 200 years. Why haven't you told the consortium about this?" Daeho demanded. "If this threat is real, everyone should know." Would they believe us? Ji-yoon asked. Would they understand? Or would they panic and try to fix things they don't comprehend? So why tell us now? Woo-jin asked. Ji-yoon's form seemed to flicker for a moment. When she solidified again, she looked tired. Because the wall is failing, she said quietly, and we need help. Outside the windows of the ship, the stars suddenly stopped moving. Everything became still and silent. What's happening? Hyejin asked, looking around nervously. We're moving deeper into human space, Ji-yoon said. To Earth. There you will meet the Council of Changes. They will explain what must be done. The stillness outside the ship turned into a blur of light. When it cleared, they were in orbit around a blue-green planet. Earth, the human homeworld. But this was not the Earth they had seen in pictures. This Earth seemed to shift and change as they watched. Sometimes it had one moon, sometimes three. Sometimes its oceans were blue, sometimes purple. It was like looking at 100 different versions of the same planet all at once. Welcome to Earth, Ji-yoon said. All versions of it. I don't understand, Daeho said, feeling dizzy as he looked at the changing planet. Humans don't live on just one Earth anymore, Ji-yoon explained. We live on all possible Earths at once. It's how we learn, how we grow, how we prepare. Prepare for what? Daeho asked, though he feared he knew the answer. Ji-yoon looked out at the shifting planet, her face solemn. For the day when the deep breaks through, she said. For the day when all reality faces the end. The ship began to descend toward the ever-changing Earth below. As they entered the atmosphere, Daeho felt a strange sensation, like he was being pulled in many directions at once. Don't fight it, Ji-yoon advised. Let your mind accept the possibilities. Daeho tried to relax, but it was hard. Everything he had ever known, everything he had believed about how the universe worked was being challenged. As the ship broke through the clouds, they saw the surface of Earth below. Cities appeared and disappeared. Oceans moved. Mountains grew and shrank. It was like watching a planet breathe. Tomorrow, Ji-yoon said, you will meet those who lead us, those who found the deep, those who built the wall. And what will they ask of us? Juri questioned. Ji-yoon turned to face them all. For just a moment her human form faded, replaced by a shape made of pure light. They will ask you to carry a message back to your people, she said, her voice echoing strangely. A warning, and an invitation. The ship landed in what looked like a city of crystal and light. Buildings that couldn't possibly stand reached up to the sky. People who weren't quite people moved through streets that weren't quite there. Rest, now, Ji-yoon said as the ship settled onto the ground. Tomorrow you will understand why the galactic map stops at human space, and why that soon will no longer be enough. Morning on Earth was not like morning anywhere else. Daeho woke to see sunlight streaming through his window, but the light changed colors every few seconds, from gold to red to blue and back again. Outside, the city shifted and changed like a living thing. Buildings grew taller, then shorter. Streets widened, then narrowed. People appeared and disappeared as they walked. Daeho's room was in a tall tower made of what looked like glass, but felt warm like skin. Last night, Ji-yoon had brought the crew here after they landed. Rest, she had told them. Tomorrow will test your minds. A soft tone sounded through the room. The wall beside Daeho's bed turned clear, showing Juri in the next room. She looked as tired as he felt. Captain, she said, are you awake? Yes, Daeho replied. Did you sleep? A little. The others are already up. They're waiting in the main room. Daeho nodded and got out of bed. His uniform had been cleaned and laid out for him, though he didn't remember anyone taking it. In the main room, Woo-jin, Min-soo, and Hyejin sat around a table that held food and drinks. The food looked normal enough. Fruits, bread, something. Like eggs. But the drinks changed color every time someone took a sip. Good morning, Captain, Woo-jin said. He seemed excited. You should try the fruit. It tastes different every bite. I'm not hungry, Daeho lied. The truth was he didn't trust food that might change while he was eating it. Ji-yoon entered the room. Today she wore white instead of black. Her form seemed more solid than yesterday, less likely to shift into light. "The council is ready to see you," she said without greeting. "Please, follow me." They left the tower and walked through the strange city. Up close, the changes were even more obvious. A building might be a pyramid one moment, a sphere the next. The ground under their feet sometimes felt like stone, sometimes like soft grass. "How do you live like this?" Minsu asked, looking around with wide eyes. "Nothing stays the same." "That's the point," Ji-un replied. "Change is growth. Static things die." They approached a large building in the center of the city. Unlike the others, this one didn't change. It was a perfect cube, made of a dark material that seemed to absorb light. "The council chamber," Ji-un explained. "One of the few fixed points in our world." Inside, the building was larger than it should have been. The entrance hall stretched for what seemed like miles. At the end was a circular room with 7 chairs arranged in a circle. 6 of the chairs were occupied by humans, or what had once been humans. The council members varied in appearance. Some looked almost normal, like Ji-un. Others were barely human at all. One was made entirely of light. Another seemed to be made of living shadow. A third had too many limbs, too many eyes. But they all watched the visitors with the same calm, curious gaze. "Welcome," said one who looked like an old man with silver hair. "I am Elder Sun. We are the Council of Changes." Daeho stepped forward. "Thank you for seeing us. I am Captain Daeho of the consortium vessel Distant Horizon." Elder Sun nodded. "We know who you are. We know why you came. Curiosity, the need to understand why the map stops at our border." "Yes," Daeho admitted. "And now you have seen. Our space is different. We are different. But why?" Daeho asked. "What happened to humans?" Ji-un spoke of something called the door, or the key. Elder Sun looked at the council member made of light who nodded slightly. "Show them," Elder Sun said. The center of the room changed. The floor became transparent, revealing what looked like a pit extending down forever. In the pit was a single object, a cube that glowed with a light that hurt to look at. 200 years ago, Elder Sun said, a human scientist found this. We don't know where it came from. Some believe it fell from the deep. Some believe it was always here waiting to be found. "What is it?" Wu Jin asked, leaning forward to see better. "We call it the Keystone," said the council member made of shadow. Its voice sounded like many voices speaking together. "It allows access to all possible realities at once. The scientist who found it changed," continued Elder Sun. "Her mind opened to new possibilities. She showed others. They changed too. Within a year, most of human space was transformed." "But not all humans accepted the change," said another council member, this one with features that shifted between male and female. "Some fled to other parts of the galaxy. Those are the humans the consortium still knows." "The unchanged ones," Ji-un added. "They live among you, keeping their distance from us." Daeho tried to absorb this information. "So the humans we know are those who rejected the Keystone," Elder Sun finished. "Those who chose to remain as they were." "And you chose to change," Juri said. "It wasn't a question. We chose to evolve," corrected the council member made of light. Its voice sounded like music. "To become what we needed to be." "Needed for what?" Daeho asked, though he feared he knew the answer. Elder Sun stood and walked to the edge of the pit. "Shortly after we found the Keystone, we discovered the deep, or rather it discovered us. Our use of the Keystone drew its attention. The image in the pit changed. Now it showed what looked like a vast, dark ocean. But this ocean moved with purpose. It reached out with tentacles of darkness that probed and searched. "The deep is hungry," said the Shadow Council member. "It consumes reality, all reality, every possible world, every possible future." "At first we thought we could fight directly," Elder Sun continued. "We were wrong. Many died, many realities were lost, so we built the wall instead." The image changed again, showing the barrier of light they had seen on the map. The wall holds the deep at bay, said Elder Sun, but only just. And now, after 200 years, it's beginning to fail. What happens when it fails? Hyejin asked, quietly. The end of everything, said the shifting council member. Not just your reality, but all realities. Everything that is, was, or could be, gone. A heavy silence fell over the room. Why show us this? Daeho finally asked. Why now? Because we need help, Elder Sun said simply. Human space is vast, but the consortium is vaster. We need resources. We need minds. We need new perspectives. You want the consortium to help fight this dice deep? Juri asked, sounding shocked. We want the consortium to help us rebuild the wall, corrected Ji-un. Stronger, better, more lasting. But that would mean telling everyone about this, Min-Su said. About you, about the deep, about everything. Yes, Elder Sun nodded. The time for secrets is over. Daeho looked at the image of the deep still swirling in the pit. How do we know this is real? How do we know this isn't some trick? The council member made of light floated forward. We can show you. Before Daeho could respond, the room vanished. They were floating in space, but not any space they recognized. Here stars died and were born in seconds. Planets formed and crumbled away. And at the edge of it all was the darkness, the deep, pushing against the wall of light. As they watched, a crack appeared in the wall. Darkness seeped through, touching a nearby star. The star didn't explode or die. It simply ceased to be. It was gone, as if it had never existed. Then they were back in the council chamber, all of them gasping for breath. That was real, Woojin whispered. We were really there. Yes, said Elder Sun. Now do you understand? This is why we changed ourselves. This is why we guard our space. And this is why we need your help. Daeho looked at his crew. They all looked shaken but determined. What do you want us to do? He asked. Return to the consortium, Ji-un said. Tell them what you've seen. Prepare them for what's coming. Will they believe us? Juri wondered. They must, said the Shadow Council member. Or in 50 years, there will be nothing left to save. Elder Sun held out his hand. In it was a small cube, similar to the keystone but much smaller, much dimmer. Take this, he said. It will prove your words are true. It will show them what you've seen. Daeho hesitated, then took the cube. It felt warm in his hand, alive somehow. Tomorrow, you will return to your ship, Elder Sun said. You will return to consortium space with our message. The time of separation is ending. For better or worse, all must now face what comes. As they left the council chamber, Daeho looked back at the dark building. For a moment it seemed to shift, revealing its true nature. Not a building at all, but a knot in reality itself. A place where all possibilities met. Can the consortium really help? He asked Ji-un as they walked back to the tower. We hope so, she replied. Hope is all we have left. The trip back to the distant horizon was quiet. No one spoke much. Each person was lost in their own thoughts about what they had seen, what they had learned. The small cube Elder Sun had given Daeho sat in a special box. It glowed softly, even, through the box's walls. Ji-un guided their ship away from Earth, back toward the boundary of human space. As they flew, Daeho looked out at the stars. They were moving again, flowing like rivers of light. But now he understood why. These weren't stars at all. They were possibilities, realities that might be, might have been, might yet become. What will your people do when you tell them? Ji-un asked as they neared the boundary. I don't know, Daeho admitted. Some will be afraid. Some won't believe us at all. But you will try to convince them? Yes, Daeho said firmly. We have to. Soon they could see the distant horizon floating just where they had left it. The ship looked small and simple compared to the sleek human vessel. Your crew must be worried, Ji-un said. You've been gone for 3 days. 3 days, Min-Su looked surprised. It felt like only one. Time moves differently in deep human space, Ji-yoon explained. Another effect of the keystone. They docked with the distant horizon. Chief Engineer Tae-ho was waiting at the airlock, his face tight with worry. "Captain," he exclaimed. "We were about to send a message to the consortium. We thought something had happened to you." "Something did happen," Tae-ho said. "But we're fine. Gather the crew. We need to talk." Before they could step through the airlock, Ji-yoon touched Tae-ho's arm. "Remember," she said quietly, 50 years. That's all the time we have." Tae-ho nodded. "We'll be back before then, with help." For a moment, Ji-yeon's human form flickered, revealing the being of light inside. "I hope so, Captain, for all our sakes." Back on the distant horizon, Tae-ho gathered the entire crew in the main hall. There were 20 of them in total, all looking at him with worried eyes. He told them everything, about the shifting nature of human space, about the Council of Changes, about the deep in the wall. "They need our help," he finished. "They can't hold back the deep alone anymore." "Can we trust them?" asked one of the engineers. "They've been hiding from us for centuries." "They've been protecting us," Juri corrected. "There's a difference." "Either way," Tae-ho said, "we have to take this to the Consortium Council. They need to know what's out there. They need to know what's coming." The trip back to Consortium space took 8 days. During that time, Tae-ho and the others who had been to Earth tried to make sense of what they had experienced. Woo Jin ran tests on the cube, but his instruments could barely detect it. It seemed to exist partly in their reality, partly elsewhere. "It's just a small piece of the keystone," Woo Jin explained. "A fragment, but even this tiny bit can bend reality around it." "Is it dangerous?" Tae-ho asked. "I don't think so. Not by itself. But what it represents?" Woo Jin shook his head. "That's another matter." As they crossed back over the boundary into normal space, everyone felt the change. The ship stopped feeling like it was in many places at once. The stars became fixed, points again, not flowing rivers. Reality settled back into a single solid form. "It feels so limited now," Heejin said, looking at the star chart. "Like we're seeing only one tiny part of what's really there." "Maybe that's a good thing," Minsu replied. "Maybe we're not meant to see more." 3 days later, they reached Consortium Central Station. It was a massive structure, a city in space where representatives from all member races met and worked. The distant horizon docked at the exploration fleet's private bay. Fleet Admiral Lee was waiting for them. He was an older man with a stern face and sharp eyes. "Captain Tae-ho," he said as they stepped off the ship, "your mission report is 2 weeks overdue, and I hear you crossed the human boundary. Explain yourself." "Sir, we need to speak to the full council," Tae-ho said. "It's urgent." Admiral Lee frowned. "The council doesn't meet with ship captains. You report to me, and I decide what the council needs to hear." Tae-ho pulled out the box containing the cube. "Then you need to see this first." In the Admiral's private office, Tae-ho opened the box. The cube floated up into the air, glowing, brighter now than it had on the ship. It pulsed with a light that seemed to bend around the edges of reality. "What is that thing?" Admiral Lee demanded. "It's called a keystone fragment," Tae-ho explained. "The humans gave it to us to prove our story." For the next hour, Tae-ho told the Admiral everything they had seen and learned in human space. As he spoke, the cube projected images around them. The shifting Earth, the Council of Changes, the deep pushing against the wall. Admiral Lee's face grew paler with each new revelation. "This is," he finally said, "this is beyond anything we've ever dealt with. That's why we need the full council," Tae-ho insisted. "Everyone needs to hear this. Everyone needs to understand what's coming." Admiral Lee nodded slowly. "You'll have your meeting tomorrow. The emergency session has already been called." "Already?" Tae-ho was surprised. "How did you know?" "I didn't," the Admiral said. "But apparently, we have visitors." The next day, Tae-ho and his senior crew stood before the Consortium Council. The great chamber was filled with representatives from every member race, the crystalline Vrexians, the shape-shifting morphs, the glowing quantum collective, and dozens more. At the center sat the 9 high counselors who ruled the consortium. But what shocked Daeho was who stood at the speaker's podium, Ji-eun. "Captain," she nodded to him as he approached. "We thought you might need support." "How did you get here?" he asked quietly. "Human space touches all spaces if you know how to move through it," she replied with a small smile. The first high counselor, a tall Vrexian whose body glittered like diamonds, called the meeting to order. "We are gathered to hear testimony from Captain Daeho of the exploration vessel Distant Horizon," the counselor announced. "He brings news from human space, news that, if true, concerns us all." Daeho stepped up to the podium. Ji-eun moved aside but stayed close. He took a deep breath and began his story again. As he spoke, the cube projected its images for all to see. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. When he described the deep and the failing wall, the room fell completely silent. Every eye, every sensing organ from dozens of different species, was fixed on the image of darkness pushing against light. "The humans have held this back for 200 years, Daeho concluded. "But they can't do it alone anymore. They need our help." "We need to help them rebuild the wall, or what?" asked the third high counselor, a morph whose body rippled with color. Ji-eun stepped forward. "Or in 50 years there will be no more reality, no more stars, no more planets, no more life. The deep will consume everything." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Some council members shouted in fear. Others called the whole thing a human trick. Still others demanded immediate action. The first high counselor raised a glittering hand, and silence fell again. "We have long suspected there was something unusual about human space," the counselor said. "That is why we respected their boundary. But this is beyond what any of us imagined." "Will you help?" Daeho asked directly. The 9 high counselors looked at each other, communicating in ways Daeho couldn't understand. Finally, the first spoke again. "Yes," the Vrexian said. "We will help. The consortium will commit its resources, its minds, its technology to this wall. But we have conditions." "Name them," Ji-eun said. "First, humans must share the keystone technology with us, not to use but to understand. Second, human space must be open to consortium scientists and engineers. And third," the counselor's crystalline face turned toward Daeho. "Captain Daeho must serve as our primary representative in this effort." Daeho was shocked. "Me? Why?" "Because you have seen both sides now," the counselor explained. "You understand what we are, and you have glimpsed what humans have become. You can speak for both." Ji-eun looked at Daeho. "Will you accept?" Daeho thought of what he had seen in human space, the wonders and the terrors. He thought of the deep pushing against the wall. He thought of what would happen if the wall failed. "Yes," he said finally. "I accept." Later, as Daeho packed his things in his quarters on the station, Juri came to see him. "So you're going back to human space," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Daeho replied. "Someone has to coordinate the consortium's efforts, might as well be me." "Will you change?" Juri asked quietly. "Like them? Will you become something different?" Daeho looked at the small cube, still glowing on his desk. "I don't know. Maybe, probably. But if it helps save everything we know." "Worth it," Juri finished for him. "Worth it," Daeho agreed. The next day, Daeho stood on the observation deck of Central Station. Ji-eun was with him, looking out at the stars, fixed, steady stars that moved as stars should. "Your people agreed more easily than I expected," she said. "Fear is a powerful motivator," Daeho replied. "And hope." "Yes," Ji-eun nodded. "Both are." "Will it work?" Daeho asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "Can we really rebuild the wall strong enough to hold back the deep?" Ji-eun's form shifted slightly, revealing the light within. I don't know, but together, we have a chance. That's more than we had yesterday. As they turned to leave, Daeho looked back at the star map displayed on the station's main screen. It no longer showed a blank space where human territory began. Now it showed a swirling, shifty,